Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got a fierce storm system that just keeps getting bigger as we'll break things down for you over the next 7 to 10 days. So let's take a look at the overall setup. You can actually see this ridge of high pressure that is locked over Greenland. That's going to create the blocking mechanism, and it slows down these systems with these negative NAOs. At the same time, we've got a ridge of high pressure that's locked into the southeast ridge. That's going to bring all the warmer conditions for them. And we have another trough that's coming in out west that keeps the colder conditions and the more unsettled weather for the Pacific Northwest and the West. So I appreciate you guys following. If you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America and the tropics, all you have to do is hit the subscribe button and you're in. It's free to do, and you get all my daily coverage on this channel and when I go live, which I will be doing on Monday and Tuesday of next week. It looks to be another significant event unfolding. So we're going to be breaking things down for you in this video. But for today, we have this stalled frontal boundary that's going to be draped across portions of North Texas and Oklahoma, as well as into Arkansas. That's going to bring them more unsettled and just kind of a dreary day for them, while the snow is flying into portions of Utah and Colorado. But we're going to be watching this cold front dropping down from the north. At the same time, we've got this warm front lifting from the south, and that's going to spell trouble because that's going to be some icy roads that are going to be forming into portions of Nebraska as well as southern portions of Iowa here on Thursday morning. And further to the south along that warm front, that's where the unsettled weather is going to be over portions of Tennessee, back into Missouri, into portions of Kentucky here. It's pretty clear to the south of you where the ridge of high pressure is going to be locked and loaded. And we've got another significant trough that's going to be coming in off the Pacific Northwest. That reinforces the colder conditions, more unsettled weather along the coastlines here, and then the snows fly in the Intermountain West. But as we go through the day on Friday, that system just continues to lift a little bit further north and the cold front drops south. That puts the snow line into portions of Minnesota, back into Wisconsin, as well as into Michigan. And that moves all the unsettled weather now eastern portions of Tennessee. Then that swings it over into the Carolinas, getting into portions of Virginia, where we could be looking at some icy type mix trying to set up as we go into Friday morning into portions of Pennsylvania. While most of this system out here, as the continued cold filters in, it'll transfer to all snow now in the Intermountain West, into Idaho, as portions of Montana. That'll filter in into portions of Wyoming. But looking at the temperatures as we go into Saturday, that cold air will continue to ooze down from Canada. There's the warm sector down south. I mean, these are morning low temperatures, and that is more, it's higher than your average high temperature this time of year. So this whole area down here is plenty warm for this time of year, as the colder air is really locked up here in Canada, filtering down into portions out west. And we have a little subtle system that's going to be coming on off the Pacific Northwest, or the cross polar flow setup. That's going to bring a little bit more colder air as we filter in deeper into the weekend, heading into Monday for the Northeast. So here's the setup going into Saturday, because we have another storm system that's going to be coming across into portions of Texas, into Oklahoma, getting into Arkansas and Missouri with more unsettled, rainy weather for them. But at the same time, we're going to be watching this storm system will start to end with the snow ending into portions of Pennsylvania, heading into portions of West Virginia. At the same time, we've got that other trough that's going to be coming in off the West Coast with more rain along the West Coast and more inland snows too. So they're going to be really adding to these totals out here into Washington and Oregon, filtering into portions of Idaho. But going into your Sunday morning, so Sunday morning, you continue to remain warm. You're in the warm sector for the deep south all week long into the weekend, going into early next week as well. But by Sunday, we've got that, these 850 millibar temperatures filter all the way down into portions of the Ohio Valley, into the mid-Atlantic, as well as into the Northeast. So we are going to have a little subtle system that's going to be coming across, kind of a clipper system, that could be ringing out some snow showers as we go into Monday. And some of these areas could pick up their first flakes of the season. And the portions of New York City could see some light snow in those areas back into Monday morning, portions of New Jersey, but the snow should start to fly into portions of Rhode Island, getting into Massachusetts and Connecticut here, into portions of northern portions of Pennsylvania, into upstate New York, as well as into Vermont and New Hampshire, as this system will be coming across with that cross polar flow type setup. But if we take a look at some preliminary snow amounts for that little system that's coming across, yeah, this is the latest European guidance draped across northern portions of Ohio here, getting into portions of Michigan. But you can see the amounts, about 2 to 4 inches, sporadic amounts into portions of Pennsylvania, heading into upstate New York, getting into Connecticut and Massachusetts. Yeah, we could be seeing some flakes start to fly into the New York City area as this filters down into northern portions of West Virginia, as well as into portions of Virginia. If you look at the Canadian guidance, it's actually a little bit more bullish. It has the snow kind of in the same general places, but the amounts are much bigger, right? So it depends on how much cold air gets locked up in this system, how much moisture is available. It depends on how much the snow amounts could be, but anywhere in these areas could pick up 2 to 4 inches with some little bit heavier amounts in central and northern portions of Pennsylvania and upstate New York. So as we go into Monday, that's when things really start to get interesting, because you can actually see this jet stream really dipping really all the way down into the Baja of California. And if you've been with me on this channel for a while, that spells trouble with severe weather. It's going to be really tapping into this active subtropical jet stream. So it's going to be picking up all that Pacific moisture. It's going to be tapping into this warm sector where you're still going to be warm on the warm side for a good chunk of Texas, into Oklahoma, back into Arkansas, Louisiana, and the Mississippi. These areas are going to be prime with this next system that will come in with that other significant trough. And it's going to tap into those higher dew points. I mean, it's like a soup kitchen out here, and it remains pretty, moist in this area. And back by the time we go into Monday, with that other significant jet stream really coming in, that's going to spell trouble, and we could be looking at some severe storms. And if anything, this system is actually slowed down a little bit from yesterday, so it makes this particularly kind of a nighttime event. And so if we look at the 850s, this is the beginning stages of our significant storm that's starting to develop on Monday, that really rapidly intensifies by the time we get into deeper into the day on Monday, Tuesday, and really cranking on Wednesday. So by the setup on Monday afternoon, getting into Monday evening, we are going to have a lot of deep layer, low level shear, wet as this system comes across. That simply means the atmosphere will be rotating, and with that lift mechanism, we're going to be looking at all modes of severe storms. And it probably looks like right now an in the evening, if not an overnight type of event, and portions of North Texas and the portions of eastern Oklahoma, as well as into Arkansas, getting into portions of Louisiana. And then obviously that just transfers a little bit further to the east as we go into Tuesday. Could still set up anywhere along into East Texas, getting into Louisiana, with that slowing down of the system, with that blocking, that negative NAO that creates that slowness of the system. So this could be a several day event with severe weather as this really comes across with all 3 modes of severe storms. We're talking, yes, active tornadoes, potentially very large hail, and damaging winds. It's concerning as they put out a day 7 risk, and the last 2 day 7 risks unfortunately ended up being tornado outbreaks. So we definitely don't want something like that to occur, but it's definitely concerning that this looks to be a similar type setup that we have seen before, with the trough really digging all the way down into Baja of California, tap into this warm sector. So we'll really have to eye this storm, because it looks to be a pretty fierce storm that will be coming by early next week. But there's a cold side of this, because once this system comes across, it's going to end cold, right? We got a very strong cold front for this time of year, but it's got a lot of snow. It's going to ring out just to the northwest of that low pressure center, and it's really going to start getting its act together during the day on Monday. So we could be looking at some heavier snows into portions of Arizona, getting into New Mexico, back into Colorado, easily into Wyoming, into Montana, but it's really going to be cranking starting in portions of Nebraska, getting into the Dakotas. Look at the tight isobars. That just gives an indication of the winds really starting to pick up, where the severe weather starts to really form as we go into the evening time frame, and the shear becomes more evident. Look at that. It almost looks like an eye that's trying to form here on Tuesday afternoon, and that's just an indication where that low pressure center is. And right around that low pressure, you're going to have a very intense winds and blowing and drifting snow. If not, a blizzard could be taking place into parts of the Dakotas and portions of Minnesota by then, as we'll be dealing with severe storms, all three modes of severe storms on the south side of this system. So definitely a very high impact event with all three modes of severe weather to the south side, and blowing and drifting snow cranking at 1 to 2 inch per hour snowfall rates, even higher right along that low pressure center. You can see how tight the isobar is. So we could be looking at some very significant snows really starting to unfold into portions of Nebraska, getting into South Dakota, getting into North Dakota, as well as that will filter into Minnesota, as that squall line will really start to form for much of the South, and that will shift off to head to the southeast, head towards Tennessee as we go into Tuesday afternoon. We go into Wednesday. I mean, look, I mean, it looks like a kind of a comma Q. That's definitely always concerning. This lifts all the way to the north, really wrapping and tightening around as this swings across. I would not be surprised if we have blizzard warnings unfold into portions of Nebraska, heading into South Dakota by the time we get into Wednesday. It definitely looks like that right now, as we'll have a squall line as the severe storms. They don't have an indication because this is 8 days out now, but it's still going to be severe storms. So I am expecting this to be severe as well, heading into portions of Kentucky, into Tennessee. That'll be through Mississippi and Alabama, and that'll eventually filter into portions of Georgia here. But look at the winds. I mean, the winds are really going to be cranking, especially right around this low pressure. So basically, the winds are really going to be high into portions of Nebraska, heading into South Dakota here, as this whole sector will get the winds, as well as where that low pressure center will be moving across from west to east. So as we continue to expand and go into Thursday, you can see this is kind of a slow trug system. It doesn't really move very fast. So we'll be looking at kind of a multiple days of severe storms, as this squall line will be extending, with really kind of probably transferring into a wind event, a significant wind event, then heading into Georgia, going through the Carolinas, getting through West Virginia and through Ohio. You can see the freeze line with this dotted shaded area. That's all the colder air. So anything northwest of there, it's all below freezing by then. And then the snow is still cranking into portions of the Dakotas, getting into Minnesota. And it's really not until Saturday that storm system really wraps up and moves off the East Coast. But then you get all the wraparound moisture, right? So you get all the wraparound moisture on the backside heading into this next weekend. So next week definitely looks to be a significant setup, heading into next week, with that freezing line going to be pushing all the way. So it ends cold. That just gives you an idea. All this ends once the cold front moves by your house. That's when the severe storms will be ending as well. But look at all the another trough that's going to be coming in. And of course, it just gets interesting for places further south going beyond this, because we remain on the cold side. But looking at some of these snow totals can be fairly significant up here into the Intermountain West, through portions of Nebraska, heading into South Dakota. Probably double-digit snowfall totals, easily not out of the question, through Minnesota, and that'll swing across into portions of the Ohio Valley, getting into portions of the mid-Atlantic as well as in the Northeast some pretty decent snowfall totals. And the Canadian is even more bullish with this system dumping feet of snow. So which one's correct? I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag right now, as but the models have been trending higher with this snowstorm because the system has slowed down. So the severe threat has increased for a more broad area, and the snow has increased simply because this system is slowing down and going through the precipitation. It's going to be rainy week, so there's probably going to be a lot of happy campers with much needed rain in California, as it's going to be unsettled for a good chunk of the next 7 to 10 days, as we'll have some welcome rains for you. But overall, a good chunk of the country does see some rain with a little bit higher amounts as these systems come across from west to east throughout next week. So, but it all ends with a significant cold front that's going to be trailing. So by the time we get into next weekend, everybody's predominantly on the much colder side, as it's going to be feeling a lot more like December then. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.